Welcome to Inside the Red Jacket, the podcast all about Montana FCCLA members, chapters, and advisors working to make a positive difference in their own communities. Stay tuned today as we learn more about Capitol leadership from some members and advisors who recently attended. Stay tuned. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for the Montana FCCLA podcast. I'm here today with Stacy from the Conrad chapter and Lexi and Mandy from the Moore chapter. And they all just got back from the Capitol Leadership experience in Washington, D.C. And so I asked them if they would hop on and share a little bit about their experience with us today. And I wanted to get us started by asking each of you to please think about what you like best about Capitol leadership and share that with our listeners, please. Mandy, did you want to start?
Sure. Um, I guess at Capitol Leadership, I really enjoyed, I got to go to an advisor session and we got to talk about fundraising opportunities. We talked about the new career clusters that are coming out. And so I felt like I just got a lot of time one-on-one to ask questions with other advisors that was super beneficial to bring back. I also really enjoyed, we did a panel discussion with different people from the industries, and I enjoyed it as much as I think the kids did, hearing from other people, their experiences and how they come from very different backgrounds, but all have similar kind of views on communication and working together and all that.
Lexi, how about you? What was your favorite part?
My favorite part of Capitol leadership was definitely getting to actually go to the Capitol. Um, you spend the first 2 days of the conference kind of learning more about advocacy and what we can do as high school students to continue CTSOs in our states and in our local chapters, and how our funding and regulations kind of funnel down from the national level. So it was really cool to get to learn what we can do and then actually get to go implement that at the Capitol the last day of the conference.
Very cool. I saw that you got to meet with some representatives. Did you find that to be interesting at all?
Yeah, it was actually super interesting. I got to meet with one House member and one senator, or their staff members, I guess. And it was really cool when I got to meet with one of the senator staff members. We started visiting, and I told him about my previous Beef to School project. And then he told me that he had recently been working on a project on a bill that would change regulations on how schools could get their meat. So we ended up having this big conversation about all these regulations and what beef to school programs look like, and he didn't know a whole lot about it. So, it really was cool to talk to somebody who I guess had never really seen FCCLA, but I realized and he realized how interconnected we really all are. So it was truly a super, super cool experience.
Very good. That does sound like a great experience. Stacy, what did you like the best about Capitol leadership?
Joe, just going off of what Mandy was talking about as far as, getting to hear all the different fundraising ideas that other schools do, it made me really fortunate for what we have here in Montana and what we're allowed to do within our schools, because so many chapters or advisors that I visited with were like, well, we're having this funding cut and we're having these funding cuts and we can't do this, and we can't do that. And I'm like, wow, like it just really opened my eyes. Like we are very fortunate with what we have with our Perkins funding, and what I think even within our own schools, what we're allowed to do as far as fundraising goes, or just the activities that we get to do. Sometimes I think I feel overwhelmed as an advisor in a small school because it's like I don't do all these huge things that all these other schools do, and I don't have these big kitchens or these big, events that I do, but sometimes that's not all it's about either. So it's kind of nice to see that. The other thing I really enjoyed was just watching Lexi and Ava like grow throughout the conference, from like day one when they're having to stop and talk to people in the streets about what they're doing, to the end when they're actually meeting with people up on the hill and getting to explain what FCCLA was. And it was fun to watch that transition go from where they might be maybe not as confident to very confident with what they were talking about.
Very cool. I wanted to also ask each of you if you had some advice for someone who is considering attending Capitol leadership, what would that be? And I thought maybe this time we'd start with Lexi.
Okay. If I had any advice, it would definitely be to go. I think it kind of looks like a kind of daunting conference because it's not all about competition and it's not got all the big fun, sessions and all of that stuff that like NLC has. And so it maybe kind of looks more boring and plain from the outside, but it really is truly. I got so much more out of Capitol Leadership than I have the last three national conferences I've went to. I felt like there was way more information, and I really felt like I learned more in the workshops. So I think if you're really passionate about FCCLA and having a voice in your leadership, I think Capitol Leadership is a great opportunity.
Would you say that in addition to the FCCLA component, Capital Leadership was more helpful in helping you understand how to make changes in policies, like maybe in your state or even in the nation, and how you can have a voice maybe that could be heard past your local level?
Oh, definitely. I think it was really interesting to be in the House building. Where all the House representatives have three or four different workers who do all this research for them. And then they get, a little bit of information and say, this is how we think you should vote. So it's really, really interesting to see how big our government is, and what like my steps would be if I had something that was an issue to me, how I would address that at the national level or even at the state level.
Very good. Stacy, what advice would you give someone who's considering attending?
Something Mandy and I visited about when we were there is go with somebody else from your state. Like for me to have just gone by myself, I think I would have been very overwhelmed and in a way felt alone because you see all these other states there with other advisors from their state. There were multiple states that I felt like brought their entire state officer team, which I thought was like the perfect opportunity for the state officer team to one bond and grow and learn about how to advocate for FCCLA and FCS. And so definitely go with other people. Um, and then also, just to make sure that you do a little bit of research, I think, before you go, so you're not like lost as far as like where you want to go or what needs to be done. Kind of know some of the policies and stuff. Know about your senators and your congressmen and stuff and like what they already support. We were doing some research while we were sitting there with the girls and visiting, okay, this is what they believe in. And it was just interesting to see we were not the only state to be doing that. I felt when we were preparing for them to go up and start making, these contacts with everybody. So making sure you have that as well, would just be, important as well.
Thanks. Mandy, what else would you like to add?
Stacy said it perfect. I think having somebody else from your state that you're familiar with to go with made me feel a lot more comfortable trying to maneuver getting on the metro or getting to Capitol Hill, all that kind of stuff. Just having somebody to be like, okay, what do you think of this was great to have along. Um, I would also say, like Stacy and Ava went the day before and had an entire day to walk around and see stuff. And so we did it at night, but it wasn't near as much as what those guys got to do. So if you have the ability to travel and go a day ahead, I would definitely recommend taking advantage of that and seeing all of DC that you can see because the schedule that they give us is pretty tight. So we had a few hours in the evenings available, but a lot of the stuff is shut down by then. So
And
go and have fun if you can.
it almost seems like a shame to go that far to somewhere with that much to see and not spend a little time seeing some of it. Sure.
Right.
So for anyone, I'll take whoever wants to volunteer here. Let's say somebody's listening who really wants to try to attend Capitol Leadership in the future. What kind of things do you think, having attended, one could say to an administrator if they were trying to get the conference attendance approved?
I'll go first on this one. Ava's actually the one who brought it to my attention. She had wanted to go to Anaheim or Orlando for those leadership conferences. And I was like, well, I had been told that maybe the better bang for your buck was to go to the DC one from advisors who had been there previously. And so when we went to our admin asking for permission, we took it as a leadership opportunity. we use the fact that she had been reimbursed from the state for her state officer duties as kind of a, this is kind of the final point. She's already had the state officer duties. She can use this money to help pay for it. And we use that kind of as the kicking point too. And we wanted to use it as an opportunity to see what else was out there since I had never been. And we wanted to explore other options other than attending nationals in the hopes that, this is the off season, things cost less money. It'd be a different experience for a chapter maybe to attend to see. And my admin was all for it. Like he's like, definitely, let's take your state officer. She's done the job as a state officer. She deserves this, kind of almost as a reward for it, but also as she's already had some of that public speaking background. So let's put her into some of those situations now and have her learn some more and go from that angle. And our school board was 100% on board with it. You know, one, I think part of it too was, okay, we don't have to look at how could we possibly reimburse this advisor for out of school time during the summer pay, if because my school's been trying to look at that as well. And this is during the school year, so maybe that's a better option as well. But that was just some of the things we talked about.
All great points. Very good.
It was definitely an easy sell for us for our school board as well. Thanks to Lexi doing her beef project. They knew her advocacy side of things. And so when we said she really wants to take it to the next level and go see what it looks like at the national level, they felt confident in it. My school board actually paid for my entire trip for it. And so then since we split costs with Stacy, like on rooms, we were able, like the school paid for my motel and then Lexi didn't have to worry about it because Conrad took care of their half that way. And so, yeah, it didn't take a heck of a lot of work to get them to say go for it. But I think for us, when there's kids who say they want to do something better, school boards typically are willing to say, yes, if you will work for it, then we will support you. And so I think it's just getting those kids to go to those meetings, show their faces and say, like, this is why I want to do it and see what happens.
Very good. Anything else you'd like to add there, Lexi?
Kind of like Mandy said, I think it's really important for the student to be the one asking. I pretty frequently go to our school board asking for stuff. But it's way more powerful if the student is the one actually asking. Advisors can go and ask for money as much as they want, but it's way, way better when the student goes and asks and is able to propose why they want to go.
Very good. Well, I appreciate everybody's time today and sharing your experience with us. Before we wrap up, is there anything that you would like to share that I didn't ask about? Do you have any great stories of your adventures while you were in Washington, D.C.?
Prep your students for how to talk to media.
So we were walking back during lunch from a museum, and our hotel was like 2 blocks from the White House. And so we were walking past the White House going back to the like conference center, and Miss Ike and Miss Auberg were walking in front of Ava and I, and there was something going on at the White House. There was a bunch of media people there, and this one lady ended up coming right up to us and started asking me and Ava questions, and me and Ava are just looking at each other like, are we allowed to say anything? Or what can we talk about? And she asked us some like political questions and we didn't answer them. And then she finally asked us about our red blazers. So then we got to give her our elevator pitch for FCCLA.
Awesome. What a good experience.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I appreciate your time today, everybody. Thank you so much for chatting with me about the Capitol Leadership Experience. Thanks so much and have a great day.
Thank
Bye.
you.